we are in a process of awakening, and some people are going to be more unawake, more asleep. Others are going to be more awake, and different individuals will be more awake in different areas. Like somebody might study more of what's been happening with the medical deception. Others might, but they have no idea about the hidden history yet. Others might be in the hidden history, but don't know about ancient aliens. It's like there's pieces and parts. There's so many pieces of this puzzle that it literally is a process that we're in. And if we think of the world egg is kind of like our consciousness, our psyche, and our knowledge, the exact. So think of the world egg as the truth, like the wholeness, the oneness, the part of us that never forgot everything that ever happened, right? Everything that ever is, was, and will be. The wholeness, our own intrinsic nature, which is that wholeness and oneness with what we call God, source, or love. But then what happened? Humpty Dumpty, the world egg, our collective consciousness of wholeness and oneness, happened to it. Oh dear. Egg, yolk, everywhere. It's a mess. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Meaning all the disparate pieces of the lie are so crazy and so messy right now. We don't know what's up, what's down, what's sideways, and what's diagonal. I mean, we really, the compounded lies, the misinformation combined with different disinformation and bits of truth, the multiple stories and meanings for the same thing. When you go start studying this stuff, it's very confusing, and it basically can put people into a state of what we call cognitive dissonance, and it can kind of create a trauma. Basically, it can create a bit of a trauma, which can show up in a lot of different ways. But we're at the point in time where we're starting to piece ourselves back together again. We're starting to remember, put the pieces back together again in our psyche, in our minds, in our bodies, in our spirits, in our history, in our systems on the planet. It's an amazing, amazing time, actually. It's absolutely amazing. And the progression of realization could have a number of stages, which here I'm loosely following the knowledge about the process of grief. And many people might say this slightly differently. This is just to give us food for thought and think about what our own unique process might be with all this information. The first step is the awareness of it at all, a rude awakening. So when you let's just whatever sector we're talking about history today. So when you first start realizing there's discrepancies in what we've been taught historically, that can be a rude awakening, especially if people really don't want to believe that that could be true. I mean, I have a dear friend who was a firefighter at 9/11, and he absolutely did not want to believe there was anything weird going on. He was very adamant. In fact, he was outspoken against the people who said anything weird was going on, which made firefighters for 9/11 Truth, made architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, and these different groups come to him and explain it to him. And that was a rude awakening for that gentleman. He had a lot of trouble and trauma from that because he did not want to believe that, was absolutely shook his worldview. That it was an absolute apocalypse in his psyche of revelation and disclosure. And it ended up inspiring him to create an organization and to start getting the word out about this. But at first, it might feel a little rude. It might feel a little shocking. There might be cognitive dissonance where you're like, that whole two bathtubs at once thing where you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna shatter here. Like, or you might freeze, you might, it's gonna happen differently for each person. There might be anger, or the anger might be suppressed and then it comes out as you start healing. But when we start actually grieving, that's our processing of the information. And we might feel sad, we might feel fear. We might feel the whole gamut of emotions: angry, sad, mad, traumatized, et cetera, et cetera. Eventually, we're going to be like, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, that really happened. We really were tricked. We really were fooled. Holy crap. And we come to acceptance. And then once that takes place, then our real healing can be again. And we can start to reorient. We can start to put our psyches back together, put ourselves back together in whatever way we're called to, each of us. There's many healing modalities. There's many beings called to assisting with these kinds of things. But really, culturally, I don't think we've had the discussion about it that much in terms of this hidden history and this knowledge coming forth. And I think it's an important discussion to have. Like, how has this been impacting us? And what do we need to do self-care? And how are we going to move on from this into what we call the new world and the new way, new dawn and a new day? How do we rekindle the flame of our inner passion and move on beyond this deception? Yeah, so we're awakening to the fact that the histories we've been taught are inaccurate. We might freeze and have resistance. We could have disbelief. We could have trauma-based stress. We might not know what to do about it. We might pause or freeze. It might be too much to digest. That when these things first start coming out in any arena, history or any of these other arenas. This third step is grief. We begin to process what has happened and allow ourselves to experience the emotion of it. This could be a dark night of the soul type of experience. It allows trust issues to surface to be healed. And it's like, whoa, we were completely lied to. You gotta be kidding me. Oh my God. And it just keeps, there's more, there's more, there's more, there's more lies that are being unfolded. And now, fourth step, acceptance. That happened. Yep, really happened. Wow, it's still happening. Whoa, wow, look at it. There it is again. Start spotting it more.
Can I jump in for a sec? Can you go back to the slide, Shreya, if you don't mind me jumping?
Yeah.
So this is the journey. And this is interesting because this is pretty much for all realizations, right?
Yeah.
Disclosure, holistic awareness, medication compared to what we really need in order to heal all these things. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. On every level, we're talking about history now, but this is spirituality. This is UFO stuff. This is everything, right? Every aspect this can be related to. And then this fifth step where some of us are starting to come into the fifth step here is reorientation, healing, and transmutation. How do we choose to now navigate in the sea of unknowns? How do we access deep self-care to handle the cognitive dissonance and to just get our bearings on reality, find the people who are our real trustworthy soul team and rekindle the flame and move on into the new? For some people, that may be a desire to research and start digging into some of this stuff and find out for yourself. And, start to learn where the sources are of information that are not just plain old paid for BS out the gate, because there's a lot of that too. And for some, there may be a desire to rekindle the knowledge of how to create reality and to do that inner work where you become, you learn how to manifest what you desire instead of being a slave to all this nonsense. And then for others, there may be a drive to shift the realities of daily life to higher priority structures like family, friends, what feels true and useful and positive. Like it could be the people who are starting homesteads, the people who are building community, the people who are starting to grow their own food, the people who are pulling back and going within and learning skills. And, it could show up in many different ways. And for some of us, it may be all or a combination of these things or even more. But it's like, how can we leverage? It's like we can't do anything about the fact that this happened. It happened. That's that acceptance piece. Now, where do we go from here? How are we going to reclaim our power? How are we going to show up? How are we going to step forward? How are we going to navigate this strange timeline where we're still kind of in two bathtubs at once, but where many signs and signals are happening that positive shifting is happening? and if that wasn't enough to chew on, which, that's really a lot. Let's talk about time. And when we're talking about history, we're talking about time and the cycles of time. So what is time? They say history repeats itself, right? They also say the cycles of time are a spiral. They also say they happen over and over and over again, like the yugas. They also say there's multiple timelines. Which one are we on? What history happened on what timeline? Now when you start this may be more advanced. Like, don't even worry about this yet, unless you're just a timeline geek and you just have to go there. But in other words, like, seriously, when we start contemplating this, wait a second, is this thing about different timelines true? Which one are we on? Did we jump into the one where we're going to unfold this and we're going to rekindle the spark with all of our so-called extraterrestrial friends and our ancestral history and our knowledge and remember who we are? That's the timeline we should be on at this point. But did different histories occur on different timelines? And if so, what are the implications of that? Which timeline are we each individually vibrating at? Like, I was shown a split in the timelines a long time ago. Some people said that the timelines are coming back together now. We'll see. It's important because I'm going to propose that what we're creating now is even more significant than what actually happened. Now, getting our bearings to a certain degree on what happened, whether that's multiple timelines or certain streams of historical data that was hidden, seems to be important to just get our bearings to move forward. But the most important thing, what are we creating now? Where are we going to go from here? How are we going to pull our big boy and girl pants on and, pull our boots up and get in the saddle and, take the reins? Now, of course, another aspect before we dive more into that last thought is, you've also got, which history are we talking about? Are we talking about the entire history of the universe? Are we talking about galactic history? So that's a huge, huge can of worms. Then there's Earth surface history, like what happened in this arena here, this plane of existence. Then there's our personal ancestral history. What really happened there? And then your personal history in this lifetime. What have you, are there suppressed memories? Are there traumas? Did really good stuff happen? How does all this relate to our unpacking of who we are, what we're doing here, where we're going? It's a lot for each of us, but it's truly the greatest adventure of all time. It's truly a soul's journey. And if that wasn't enough either, now let's remember what all of the ancient scriptures, not just the Western scriptures, all of the ancient scriptures say in some way or another. The kingdom of God does not come with observation, nor will they say, see here or see there. For indeed, the kingdom of God is within you. The mystery of mysteries. This is the most important thing. And this is probably the most hidden item. It's like, sure, we'll tell you about the ETs, but we're not going to tell you who you really are. What we call Christ is in you. Jesus said, ye are gods. As a man thinketh, so is he. What ye sow, ye shall reap. Wait a second, who are we? The ancients knew this stuff, okay? It was all over the iconography. It was in all the stories. It was a great mystery school, a mystery play displayed architecturally and in scriptures throughout the ancient world and the old world and the civilization. And the craftsmanship and the beauty and the care and the knowledge was displayed in how people lived their lives and in the communion with one another and the non-fighting, the divide and conquer energy, the pre-divide and conquer. Then we went into this cauldron of transformation called duality and called this takeover, whatever it was, and this experiment, whatever it was, where we got tricked and deceived, and now we're awakening. But the truth is, as we heal up and integrate all this, let's remember to take full responsibility for our lives and the world and the experience and our individual experience in the world and of the world. It doesn't mean shit didn't happen, because it did. Let's face that fact. It means we're ready to awaken to the truth of us and take the reins from here. So this is all part of getting back in the saddle. This is all part of the recapitulation and the the reintegration and the recalibration of us. And so, yes, I'll leave you with the most important question to complicate. To complicate. Hopefully, it doesn't complicate, but it might feel complicated. Yes, but to contemplate. You're the creator of your own reality. Where do you choose to go from here?